The Age of Ultron is upon us. At long last, the highly anticipated sequel to Marvel's The Avengers has hit theaters. Second most anticipated movie of the year for me. And with me are two nerds also incredibly excited. I say that endearingly, by the way. I'm a nerd too.
Oh, totally. We're all nerds,
excited to discuss this film with me. So I don't want to waste any time because this is going to be a great discussion and a really, really long one. So without further ado, that's funny because Joss Whedon did much ado about... Anyway, my name is Sean.
My name is Larry.
And my name is Max.
And so let's just jump right to it.
Okay, wait, Sean. This is a huge movie. We can't just, go right into it like guns blazing. We need to plan a review.
I have a plan. Review. So, we are finally here. One of the most anticipated movies of, ever for me personally. Avengers, Age of Ultron has hit. And we get to take advantage of our glorious podcast here to sit down and discuss it. And I'm really excited for this. I know Max
Yeah, me
is.
too. I'm so stoked to talk about this
I got so much to say with so little time, it seems. But we're going to do our best to just get all the thoughts out there and have some fun.
Yeah. So let's start with the community section before we get too into Avengers. This is from the Force Awakens teaser debate. Unfortunately, we had some technical problems that kept us from posting a podcast last week. We do apologize. But it is all Larry's fault, by the way. Actually, no. Larry was the one editing. And Max is the one whose microphone messed up. So it's everyone's fault but mine. So yay.
Yeah.
Good for me.
I will make a personal, sincere apology for that. Life decided to just happen.
That's on me, too. I don't know what happened with that.
Yeah.
Well, I swear.
I think, at the end of the day, the important lesson we learned is, I'm the responsible one.
The moral of the story is that Sean is perfect and almighty and omnipresent.
I didn't want to say it,
Stop encouraging him. Stop.
Anyway, we have a comment from Seth Campbell, who said, we talked about our job news. I got an internship in LA, Max got his, Larry picked his college, really big life news. And he says, I don't really have any awesome job news, but I did just switch my major from program and computer repair to AA transfer. I think we looked it up last podcast, but I still couldn't figure out what that is. But congratulations. Also, he says, I can never hate the word transcend until I'm forced to read Emerson's Self-Reliance. I've not read Self-Reliance, but I have read some Emerson. So I can buy that he uses transcend a lot.
Because he is a transcendentalist.
Yes, so it comes up. It comes up.
Comes up a few times.
Well, I don't know.
No other comments, right, Sean?
No other
comments.
Yeah, we just kind of decided to not run by... no more comments.
Yep, no more comments.
Anyway,
moving on.
Let's get on with the topic, which is Avengers: Age of Ultron. And it's weird because this is a movie that was announced a long time ago, it feels like. And the MCU is something that it's episodic in a sense that you feel like you're watching this ongoing story, but it's spread apart. It's 2 a year. And so there's always, for me at least, this weird realization that there's another piece of the MCU out. And perhaps there's no bigger piece of the MCU that has ever come out than Age of Ultron. So it's a little weird for me to be like, oh, I finally saw it. You guys feel the same way?
Oh, yeah. It's an event, pretty much.
It is.
A little less so
I actually saw it in my town's brand new movie theater, the Violet Crown. It was awesome. There were tables and, there were, enough space that you could, walk through and not hit everybody's legs when you're, trying to get past people.
Whoa, Max, whoa. There were tables?
Yep, because they had, food. You could just bring it, they made.
Oh, it was a giant. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Fork and screen. Yeah. I have an AMC theater that's close to me that does fork and screen. It's so nice.
So, outside of doing product placement for your movie theaters,
food,
we should probably move on.
Yes.
So, the effect is worn off. And what helped with that is that I actually saw the film twice to be prepared for this review. And so, let's kind of get right to it. I'm a little scared, to be honest. None of Larry's opinion, mostly Max's. What Max will think of this film, because there might be some disagreement between the two of us.
But why you gotta ruin it?
Isn't there always?
Yeah.
Actually, no. But
we'll have to see. So, I guess let's just start out with this very simple question, which I think we should all agree on, whether or not... It doesn't matter what our opinions of the opinion of the movie itself is. If you like the MCU, is this worth checking out at least?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's a thought, of course. It doesn't matter if it's amazing or even, subpar or bad. It's important. You should probably go check it out. It's not so awful that you should just ignore it. So if you're looking for that, there you go. There's our approval for why not, just go see it. But now let's get a little more detail.
Should we start with our thesis?
I love how Sean pretty much just gave away his opinion of the movie throughout that entire little
or he's doing an incredible job of just tiptoeing around it, and he's going to turn around and give us a completely different opinion.
I'm just saying, no matter how bad you think it is, we all agree that it's worth checking out if you're into this. So, there you go. I don't know why you guys think this is so weird.
Sean, just give your thesis.
No, I would like Larry, you should go first.
Okay, fine. I'm not afraid to give my thesis. Alright, so the obvious stuff is obvious, okay? Marvel movies are good at many things, and Age of Ultron succeeds in those regards. It's got a great cast, it's got very fun action, the writing is just very good, and there's a lot of great lines that come out of this movie from several different characters. But when you really sit down and you look at it, there's something wrong with Age of Ultron, and I think the main thing that kind of makes it a bit of a letdown for me is that it's too big for its own britches, and it tries to do too much without enough time. It focuses too much on the wrong things and doesn't focus enough on the right things, which makes it, honestly, one of the weaker Marvel films, in my opinion. Does that mean it's a bad film? No, absolutely not. But it could have been a lot better if some fine tweaking was involved. So I'm going to give Age of Ultron a 6.5 out of 10. There you go.
I didn't expect that.
Wow, I didn't either.
All right, go ahead.
Wow. Okay, Max, go for it.
I tried as hard as I could to avoid any spoilers for Age of Ultron because I just wanted to go in with with a clear head. The only thing I saw media-wise was the first trailer. But what ultimately happened was I kind of got spoiled by Age of Ultron when I read the news that there was going to be an extended version with the Blu-ray, because Age of Ultron feels so condensed that it absolutely is in dire need of an extra half hour. There's no establishing act. There are things that happen in the movie that we're just kind of supposed to go with. And it feels like so much was cut out of the opening just so we could get to the really good stuff. As a result, we have a movie that's sort of uneven, but the pieces of the puzzle that comprise Age of Ultron are so good, with so many great character pieces, action sequences, so many great lines, that it's a really, really enjoyable film. It just kind of feels hacked out a little bit. Hacked out? Cut out a little bit? To the point where it's just like it's like a great band needs a drummer to keep everything going. Otherwise, even if the guitar solos and the bass and all that stuff and the vocalists are great, you still need something to keep it all together before it crumbles in on itself. And Age of Ultron's structure is kind of its biggest downfall. So I'm looking forward to the extended version, but that's not important, because as it stands, I'm kind of surprised I'm saying this, but I would still give Avengers Age of Ultron an 8 out of 10, because it still is thoroughly enjoyable.
All right, Sean.
So,
go ahead.
When I have highly anticipated movies, I tend to do this thing where 48 hours to 24 hours before I see it, I get really worried that it's going to suck. It's just a thing that happens. Like, I start
This happened with Interstellar, didn't it?
Oh, yes, very. It happens with every big release that, I'm really excited for. I have the realization that nothing's certain, that I might go in and be really disappointed and sad and all this build-up, and it won't be worth it. However, with Age of Ultron, I had a lovely realization. When I sat down at the theater, I realized that I didn't care. I honestly didn't care, because all I cared about was what's next for these characters, what's next for the MCU. That was like 70-80% of the interest. It's like a TV show. And the movie, my opinion of it kind of reflects that. I feel like, I agree with you guys, there are some base problems that need to be addressed. I disagree with some of the pacing, I think it was well paced, and I don't think it's too crammed, but I think there are some fundamental pieces, which we'll get to in the full discussion, that needed some work or needed some clarification. But I think what it does well, like Larry said, the action, the one-liners, the characters, and all that, it's just the most entertaining movie I've seen this year. And it will probably continue to be the most entertaining movie I've seen this year. And so why this is connected to my idea of that I don't care is that the score I'm going to give doesn't really reflect my enjoyment. My enjoyment is like a 9.5 or a 10. I thoroughly enjoy this movie, like, the whole time through. But as a score, it surprisingly seems low, but I'm going to give Avengers Age of Ultron an 8.5 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
You see that's low, and it's the highest score.
Because I loved it. Like, I enjoyed it so much. But yeah, there are problems that need to be addressed.
This is going to be an interesting discussion, then.
Yes, it is.
All
Larry,
right.
what's up with... Okay.
All right.
Before we get into the what's up with Larry, now is your time to leave, person who doesn't want Age of Ultron spoiled.
Oh yeah, that's our thing. And before you go, your viewer question is, or listener question is, what did you think of Age of Ultron? And regardless of whether or not you liked it, what's your favorite moment? A line, like an action beat, not an action sequence, not any sort of sequence, just a moment in the movie that you're just like, that was awesome. Even if it was the line, even if it was like a word that was uttered like in a specific place, just anything that made you go, because that happened to me a lot. I was wondering what you guys thought. So other than that, you guys, you get going, go see the movie or don't or whatever. Everybody else, let's do this.
Anyway, yes, let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start.
Yeah, really, especially with this movie.
Yeah, I think so. Larry, we'll let you get to your. What, was you that argued about the opening act? Was that you? Or was that Max?
That was me, the establishing act, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. I just want to say that it did a great job setting up what this film is. And I think this was done in the cinematography. Because you know how this film starts? In terms of, like, notable shots? It's not the first shot, of course. It starts with a long, single-take action shot that follows all the Avengers individually.
Oh, I noticed it was a long take.
Yeah,
I noticed
it's
that.
It's a one shot.
Exactly like the single shot following all the Avengers during the climax of the Avengers, the Battle of New York.
Yeah.
That, like, to me...
It's kind of interesting that
To me, that just instantly said, here's your movie, we're picking up at the climax of the last movie, and you're just gonna have to roll with it. Like, they're a team, we're just going full force. It wasn't afraid to leave people behind. And I also just like that it was already set up. We weren't going to get a repeat. That really put my concerns to rest. Because it's like we started where the last movie left off. Perfect. Perfect.
Well, okay, we'll get to that later, but I will say that, like, that scene was... I think they're one of the most legitimate complaints about the Avengers, even though all complaints about the original Avengers are legitimate, as with everything. What I mean to say is, when like, a complaint I heard a lot was that the first like 45 minutes were kind of slow, not really,
yeah, sure,
kind of boring. This movie addresses that and just like goes right for it. The first time with that slow motion, I was so happy that I had not seen that slow motion shot of all of them at once, because I know that was in the marketing a lot.
Yeah, it was in the second trailer.
Marketing a lot. Like, I hadn't seen that. I was like, I turned to my friends. I brought a bunch of my friends with me. Some of them had already seen it. I turned to them and they were like, they nodded like, yeah, it's gonna be one of those movies. I'm like, yes, awesome. That's
weird.
The first time I was like, awesome.
I never agreed with that criticism of the Avengers. I didn't think that it was very slow in the beginning, really, at all.
It was undeniably slower in the beginning, but
well, I mean, duh, because
well,
I mean, the last hour is pretty much an action scene.
That's well,
but and I get that, but I mean, I thought it was entertaining nonetheless. The beginning, and I think here it is. Also, I do like how they start the movie off with a bang, and then they sort of give us some downtime, be like, all right, we're back at the Avengers party. You know, like, this is where we are.
Which is great.
Also,
which is great. A little bit.
Really quickly hit on the fact that Winter Soldier is just absolutely Avengers 1.5. I mean, come on. It is a direct follow-up
It does,
to
but
Avengers.
I don't think you need to see Winter Soldier, like, entirely to understand what's going on here. Like, it just seems like the movie begins with the Avengers just going on an adventure, doing their Avengers stuff.
Avengers Age of
Ultron
Ultron is more a sequel to the post-credit scene of Winter Soldier than it is the first Avengers. It's like
a little bit. I can see that, but I don't think you absolutely need to have seen that in order to like understand like what's going on in Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Some details.
It just feels like they're just going out doing like they use, instead of saying Shield because that would be really difficult. They just say Hydra because Hydra is bad guys. Yeah. Like we know this,
and it sounds bad. Even
if you want to know what's going on with Hydra, you go watch Winter Soldier. Yeah. But if you didn't, it's okay.
I guess just linked to that is I would have liked a little bit of a prologue in terms of why the Avengers are all formed. Like we kind of got it. But I was a little confused, like, oh, they're all together.
I would say that too, because, like, at the end of, like, all the Avengers movies, it all seemed like they're just going out doing... I mean, not the Avengers movies, of all, like, the Phase 2 movies involving these characters, it looked like they just kind of went to go do their own thing. Right. Cap went to look for the Winter Soldier.
Sean, we needed a lot more than a prologue.
What?
I'm just gonna drop that. I'm just gonna drop those cards. And I'm not saying that just strictly for the opening sequence.
See, okay,
we need that.
This is...
But I just wanted to segue a little bit, because I think we got the opening scene. Do you want me to just kind of explain myself a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my problem, right? Age of Ultron, it does so much.
Yes.
Right? It tries to do so much with this universe. It has so many different characters. It establishes new ideas. But, like, when I was walking out of it, I felt like it had less weight to me. Like when I was walking out of Avengers.
Really?
And there's just a few... Here are a few examples. Ultron. I think James Spader, God bless him, he does a great voiceover job. I think he has some great lines, but it's so not up to the potential it could have been. Why? Like half of the lines that Ultron says have barely any weight to them. Like, am I the only person?
I loved Ultron as a villain. However, I do have problems with how he's established. But we'll get to that
okay, so there's another thing. His establishment is absolutely rushed, and there's a complete... It's like someone put a cut between 20 minutes of the film and then just decided to put them together.
For the time being, obviously we can't do this whole review, but this is a good way to segue. Let's just keep going along the movie and talk about the party scene, which will lead us to characters. Yeah, I think that's very important. Which will lead us to Ultron. Okay, so we'll get to Ultron. It's a very, very important, obviously, Age of Ultron. So yeah, let's start with the party scene was awesome.
Oh yeah, it was nice to see every single character there. You know, every single one.
It was so nice, like
except for Pepper and
true.
That was kind of my biggest complaint with the first Avengers movie, outside of the plot isn't anything special. Was that it was like there was so much bickering. Maybe it was just a little bit too much of the bickering within the group. Like I know you needed it, and I know it fit the characters to disagree like this, but it felt a little too much until the first big dialogue scene of the film with all of them in a room. They're all buddies. Like, I like that. It was dropped. The squabbling, all that, it was dropped. And
I just like hanging out, like the whole hammer scene. That was great.
It was a great scene. Yeah, It was a great scene.
Can we? I guess that is sort of almost the first scene where we get that the Black Widow Hulk thing.
Right.
The romance. Can we comment on that?
Okay, should we dedicate just another part of this review later on for that specifically? Because that's a whole thing.
Okay.
Honestly,
well, you wanted to go through the whole movie and like step for step. Well, this is the first part to introduce.
No, I was saying just for the time being. And so what I think we should talk about now is, since the rest of the cast is going to be kind of linked to the whole plot, let's do Ultron. Let's talk about our villain.
Ultron.
Who is Ultron? What do we think of him? Age of Ultron, clearly.
That's my first issue. I really didn't know what he was.
Yeah,
I didn't
exactly.
know what, see, okay, my big problem with Age of Ultron is that it lacks any sort of establishment act. Not a first act, mind you, just an act to just kind of establish things. Like, the whole as we just talked about, the Black Widow and Hulk thing, that just seems kind of to come out of nowhere. Even though there's evidence, whatever. With Ultron, it's like, out of nowhere, this guy's evil.
Absolutely.
I'm like, okay, we gotta go do it.
Absolutely, Max. I agree with you 100%.
And I feel like that was kind of the point. I mean, this is very much a okay. This is the first 15 minutes or something is like the epilogue to the Avengers. They find this staff. Finally, and now we can all go home, and the Avengers can be disbanded. Hooray! We completed our mission. And so the fact that it all just comes shattering down so quickly, and I think it's purposeful that Ultron attacks first. They're having a party. Like, his first attack isn't like them armored up or on a mission. They're in the middle of the party when Ultron does his first attack. I think it was meant to be jarring. Now, whether or not you think that was good is another thing, but I would argue that it was effective for me. Where it's like, oh wow, like boom, you thought you won, and then it turned into this brand new, more threatening enemy.
No, I don't. No. I'm not talking about that. I mean, that opinion you have is, I agree with that. I think it's good that he attacks them when they're so vulnerable. My problem is Ultron just sort of forms himself, right, with Jarvis, that whole scene with Jarvis, and then all of a sudden, without actually, I mean, of course he gets all the information about them, but without actually even having spoken to any of them, or without Tony Stark having really formed a relationship with Ultron at all. He's just suddenly, you guys are terrible. You guys have to be extinct. Bye-bye.
I mean,
pew, pew, pew.
I mean, honestly, this isn't a human character.
That's not the point.
No, it is.
No, the point, okay, but the point is, it's just, it builds up Ultron to be this huge threat when he just, instead of, I mean, okay, we had Loki, and he, at first, Loki was just by himself. He was just this guy. And then he has this big army come in. Ultron doesn't do that. He comes out, says his thing, and then all of a sudden he becomes this huge threat, and there's no establishment, there's no build-up to that. It's just it's payoff without build-up.
But the rest of the movie is the payoff. I mean, the stuff they have to do.
Yes, but there's no build-up to that. He's a great villain. I love Ultron. I love how he acts. I love how he's basically just Tony Stark if he was evil, basically.
Yeah.
And I love, but outside of that, it's just, he just comes out of nowhere, and there's no establishment, there's no, sense of pacing to his character. Now, I think the movie is well paced. Just its information distribution is really freaking uneven.
It's
really kind of
incredibly-
detrimental to the overall product.
Like,
Right,
here's
okay.
how I like to think of Ultron and Stark as sort of like Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I was reading a
definitely.
few reviews. That's pretty much what I got. So, like, Stark doesn't really talk to Ultron. And, like, all
Yeah,
of a
not
sudden,
that
he's just
much.
like, you want peace in our time. Right. I sort of want to, like, agree with your philosophy, but yet I also hate you because you're like a disease, despite the fact that we haven't even talked and we have no
You know what?
interaction.
No. I gotta shut you down, Larry. You're treating Ultron like a human character, and this does matter.
Because he acts like one.
No, but he's not.
But he acts like
But
one.
okay, that doesn't matter. What matters is this: a person should not want to destroy the world and hate Tony Stark and all the rest of the Avengers in the span of 5 seconds. Yes, we're talking about this super AI that got every little shred of information about all those people in a microsecond and can process all of that in another microsecond. This is a character that has formulated his opinion that would have taken decades for a human to do in the matter of a few seconds. And I think I bought it. There's no arc to Ultron, really. It's more just it reveals more about him. It's Ultron doesn't have development. He's a robot. You know, I didn't expect too much about him to be developed. But I think at the start, it's totally believable that he jumps immediately to villainy, because that's just what the programmer would give. You input
But
numbers
why
into a
is
program.
he evil in the first place? Why would, like, where does this program come from? I'm really kind of confused by this. Like,
It's the
I'm being
classic
completely honest.
See, okay, I will give you this. I don't really like his origin, because the idea of an Infinity Stone having, like, a computer in it, maybe they were saying something different, but as I understood it, like, does the Infinity Stone have, like, a computer in it?
Yeah, I
Is
know.
the
It's a
Infinity
really
Stone a
odd
computer?
explanation.
Like, is that in the comics?
Yeah.
Comic people, like, are the Infinity Stones, like, left by this superior technology race that, like, coded the powers of existence? Like, I don't know. Maybe. But I didn't really like his origin. It didn't really fit.
Who
you know?
created this main, like, who created this? Like, what?
Now, we might
I'm really
learn,
just...
maybe, but for the sake of this film on its own, I agree it felt a little off. Like, now, wait a minute, an AI came from an Infinity Stone? Maybe it's just because I know about the Infinity Stones. Everyone else could probably hide okay. But, yeah, I grant that. However, I don't grant that it's weird he jumped right away to destroy the world. Okay, we're talking about a supercomputer. It is a computer.
Not only that...
It's a computer, and it's a really good computer. So even though Banner is like it's thinking, it still operates like a machine. It's still going to take the variables, in this case the raw data of the entire internet, specifically about the Avengers, and is going to come up with its conclusion really fast. So I gotta disagree. I think Ultron jumping right to villain made complete sense, and also saved us a lot of time. Unlike Loki, who took all of Thor to make him a villain.
Okay, here's my counter argument to that, and like it's more of a visual thing.
Okay.
I think what like really doesn't sell me on Ultron, and this sounds kind of like a superficial thing, but I think it does kind of make an impact on how you see a villain. Is that the first time we see him, he's like this broken down robot, one of the Iron Legion people, right?
Yeah.
And then immediately after, he's like in his like second to final form. Like we don't.
It's confusing.
Yep.
He just like comes out of nowhere. And again, I mean, I want to say I love Ultron as a villain. I think he's one of the better Marvel villains. But like he just kind of pops into existence, and that's, I mean, again, programming, computerized, that's, you know, in like contextually that might make sense, but from a filmmaking, from like a storytelling standpoint, it feels rushed, and it feels like going right. It's like pushing through the line to get to the roller coaster, but like then you have to stay in line for a little bit more before you actually go on the roller coaster.
Like the scene where he's talking to Black Widow and says, "What doesn't kill you?" and then he tears apart. I couldn't really tell the difference between the two bodies.
Yeah, with his cheekbone stereos.
Do you honestly, like, I just got this. Do you think maybe the CGI like kind of ran out and they just kind of put the kind of slightly lessened final form as his middle? Like, did they have a middle form planned? I don't know.
Yeah, that was something I was kind of asking myself. I'm like, those two bodies look pretty similar.
I think enough of the origin and the body stuff. Let's talk about like the character himself, because Max, you like the character. Let's go back to the positive. Max, why don't you talk about why you like the character?
I just like Ultron just because of how he works. Is just, you know, I don't know why. I just really like overconfident villains, and also ones that are just like funny and not like, you know. And again, I really do like how his mannerisms kind of reflect Tony Stark, because Tony Stark kind of created him. Again, that's
another thing that was kind of lost on by his origin being changed.
Especially considering how everybody was like all up in arms about the fact that Tony Stark created Ultron, when Tony Stark just kind of like put him into a robot or just turned him on, basically. It's like, oh, there's this thing. Flip the switch. All right, now he's on, and now he's crazy. So
Yeah.
I'm a bit, but other than that, I love how he acts, how he moves around, how he talks. It just, I don't know why, Ultron just really resonates with me as one of the better villains in the Marvel Studios universe. Now, to be fair, that's not really saying all that much. But still, all of his lines, I think, are great.
Yeah,
I really
James
enjoy
Spader. James Spader is awesome.
Yeah.
I think he gives a
Yeah.
fantastic vocal performance here. And I'm still trying to piece together my real opinion about how he's a robot, yet he acts so much like a human. Like
Right,
he's even he even makes comedy. Like he does
Yeah,
and it's
But
weird.
that's the artificial intelligence.
This is
part
where I
where,
start to explain my evil plan.
Yeah, kind of gives the idea of a personality and stuff. That's just the artificial intelligence stepping in. So I don't think you really need to explain that.
Yeah, you don't have to, but how there's AI is a very common thing in sci-fi movies. There's always that AI starts off as sort of this wooden thing that doesn't know that much, and then it learns things. This movie decides to be I'm gonna learn everything.
Well,
and
that's
then
more realistic, to be honest.
In case of Ultron, yes, but it's just I like that he is a relatable character in the sense that he acts more, he has more humanistic mannerisms to him. And I just think that sometimes it becomes a little too much it becomes a little too overbearing, that his villainous persona kind of drops because he just looks kind of silly at times.
That's a good transition. I'm not super on board with this villain. And
me neither.
Maybe it's because I just finished Daredevil, but Marvel's kind of doing a trend. I think they went... This is much less so. We'll talk about Daredevil next episode, don't worry. It applies to Fisk as well. I think they went a little too far in making Ultron... He's funny.
He's funny. Oh,
he's kind of goofy. Like when the Hulk jumps into the jet at the end, and he says, "Oh, for God's sake," and is thrown out. I don't know how to be scared of him. I don't know how to be...
Exactly. Boom.
I don't know. I think it went a little too far.
I didn't think about that. I was never scared of him. I just thought oh man, this guy is powerful. It's gonna be fun to see him take it down.
I think it's an interesting character. I love how he talks. But James Spader has a wonderful voice for this type of character. It has a sinister, but it's warm and it's weird. He has a really perfect voice for this. But I think just the lines, it was played up a little bit too much for comedy. I wasn't scared of him. Now, I wasn't scared of Loki really. But the point of Loki was kind of that. He was a pretender. He was I'm king, daddy. I want the crown. Exactly. And Iron Man calls him that, doesn't it? Yeah. He's a full-blown diva.
Yeah.
He wants his name up in light. Yes. So that was the point of the character. Ultron's, as Bruce Banner puts it, a murder bot. This is a character that needs more presence.
That's my problem. And I'm going to
I think good character, not great villain.
Yeah, I'm going to tie this. I want to tie this again to something I said earlier. Half the lines he says, those big lines, "You're all caught up in strings." Those lines are supposed to be intimidating, and they're supposed to punch you in the throat. But yet he's too chock full of other silly lines. In which case, and those lines don't really get much. They don't really have much visual impact also. So it just sort of makes me feel okay, you're cool. I mean, I would love to see a movie about you, but I don't think you're really... I don't think you're that big. I'm not as intimidated by you. I think that's a core thing.
By Ultron, not as much as I think the movie wanted
that's a
me to
big problem I have with this movie. It's just the villain, the execution of the villain is very choppy or lopsided in certain areas. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Blah, blah, blah.
Max,
let's move into other stuff, because...
Yeah.
What?
I was just saying if you had any last thoughts, but that was a lot of Ultron, and it was good. I think that, it's good that we got that out of the way, because we all kind of have major points of the film around it. Next, I say, do you want to just go into, the individual characters really quick? Because
I think the cast was great. The cast is awesome.
Cast is great.
This is one of the best.
Joss Whedon, he's really good at directing a great cast, no matter how ridiculous they're making, the things they have to say. So
yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna say it. This is the best cast for any franchise out there. No one has this.
Yeah,
no other
honestly.
franchise has this.
Star Wars notwithstanding, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
in December. But right now, yes, the Marvel cast is basically the strongest one because they all understand their characters and they all bounce off each other extremely well, which is kind of the whole point of the Avengers.
They've all had time to practice, Well, yeah. This is many movies in for all of them with their characters, and the second, and sometimes more, to interact with each other.
So, should we make a specific time to just discuss very quickly the newer editions?
Oh yeah, I want to go through really quickly. Let's just talk Tony Stark. I love Robert Downey Jr. He did great. He wasn't given as much
I don't think he was. Yeah.
But I think for me, one of the moments was when Captain America's Stark will take care of it, and Scarlet Witch says, no, he won't. Ultron can't see the difference between destroying the world and saving it. Where do you think he gets that from? That was a good reveal. That was a good revelation about the character. So while I don't think Stark got a arc, we learned more about him through Ultron and just through the events. You know, it wasn't much, but it was definitely there. You know, and also he's just such a delightful character. Tony Stark's just so much fun.
Yeah, I don't think he's like as funny as like say the first Avengers or Iron Man 3, but I do certainly think that he's like I think that he has a good presence. And again, his role as a not complete hero but sort of a villain does kind of not only reflect certain things that are going to happen to this universe in the future, but also just how he's come as a character.
Well, I mean,
I'll have to explain that later on.
He's not a villain.
He's not a villain. He's just kind of become like a bored teenager, sort of.
Yeah,
like where he's just like, all right, gotta do this again.
I was talking with my roommate just this morning, and we said the MCU could be retitled "The Increasingly Poor Decisions of Tony Stark." Like he just keeps messing up. So yeah,
seriously.
Larry, do you have anything on our friend Tony?
No, I like it. I think some of his lines are cool. I just wish he got a little more time with Ultron, but that's another thing.
I could agree with that. A little more face-to-face, yeah.
Totally.
Next, let's talk, really quick, let's talk Thor, because I think I agree with a lot of people, Thor didn't get an arc either this movie.
That's just something I have a little issue with. Thor just kind of...
his side story was like kind of worthless.
Well, I have a feeling that the whole dream he has is hugely connected to Ragnarok.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay,
that's why I like Thor's... Like, that's what's funny. The point I'm going to get to, and Thor kind of exemplifies it, everyone has an arc or a point. So Tony Stark might not have an arc, but the point is to bounce off the villain of the film, and to give us a few more notes on his character. Thor's point, while he doesn't have an arc, and I agree that is a slight negative to the film, I'm not going to say that it's a good thing he doesn't have an arc, but his purpose is clear. He's setting up Ragnarok. And I don't think it's a mistake that Kevin Feige said that Ragnarok will be to Phase 3 what Winter Soldier is to Phase 2.
Whoa, is that what he said?
Yeah,
okay, so
Ragnarok
I want
is
to point
Avengers
on that note, okay, so if you guys have ever watched the movie, the Muppet movie, there's a part in the movie where in order for the characters to get from one place to the other, they actually take the film screenplay, look at it, and go, all right, that's what we got to do.
Huh.
Basically, that's kind of what Thor does in this movie. He looks through the plans for the next 5 Marvel movies, like, I gotta go do this, and then he leaves. And as a result, it's kind of like, I think this stems from the problem that Age of Ultron suffers a bit from what I call ASM2 syndrome, or Amazing Spider-Man 2 syndrome.
I disagree.
Wherein, hold on, and what I mean by that is there's a little bit too much setup for movies coming in the future as opposed to setting up a movie for this. Now, not to the point where it's a huge problem, but it does, again, suffer from a tiny bit from that. Especially with Thor's going off and doing something else. It just kind of feels out of it's just kind of out of whack.
I have to agree
that thing could have been cut, honestly. That should have been the extended edition, and other things could have been,
We can't pretend, like, okay, the sentiment of, like, it's the film that matters on its own. You know I'm totally on board with that. We've argued this. But there does come a point where we can't ignore the fact that this is the... Oh, wow. How many movies is this? Is this like the 10th, 11th?
10th, I believe.
10th or 11th,
like, this is
10th, or no,
this
the
is
11th
the big
or something.
series. This is the big series, okay? And it has a big series. It has a huge Phase 3 that follows it. We can't ignore it. And so I think we should be more forgiving. You know,
okay, I can understand where you're coming from. However, Marvel Studios' original philosophy, and Age of Ultron almost kind of flies in the face of it, is that you tell a solid, standalone story, and then you throw in little hints to things that are coming in the future. That was their original philosophy.
And honestly,
and
this
it just
isn't that
seems
much
they've kind of, gone away from that.
How long has Thor actually gone? He's really just gone for the farm, and then the chase with the truck. He's not gone that long.
It's not a matter of how long he was gone. It's the matter that he left.
And he goes and does something else, and we don't need, like, why did we have to see the things that he was doing? Because, like, he explained everything that he learned right when he came back. So why did we have to go to that whole thing where he goes in the freaking lake, other than maybe, like, fan service or something? I don't know. Like, where he just kind of goes in the lake, sees this vision, and he's like, okay, I have to leave. It just, that feels like something that could have been in the extended edition, as opposed to being in the theatrical cut. And we'll talk about this edition later.
Since I'm very, I care a lot about the MCU as a whole as well as each individual movie.
You know I do, Sean. I do.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that you don't. I'm saying, like, that's where I'm coming from. Like, I'm thinking, like, oh, it's okay to have a little detour if it helps give us a taste of Ragnarok and, kind of spurs on that. I'm okay with it. I'm not great with it. I admit it's a fault again, but it's not a huge one. It's minor. It's a fun
I mean, Sean, I get where you're coming from, Sean, and it's so hard because that little debate between a movie on its own and the movie as part of a universe is really starting to kind of That's what, in my opinion, kind of tears this movie a little bit apart for me. Is like, part of me wants to, really hate the fact that we get this vision of Ragnarok, and Thor just leaves, and then he comes back and goes, "Oh yeah, they're Infinity Stones now," and they're all like, "Oh okay, yeah, cool, all right, whatever," and then they just continue. But then another part of me goes, "Well, how else are they really gonna set it up?"
It's kind of like it's a lesser two evils. Like,
Right.
do they just like in Ragnarok, like now it's important, Or
What
like
if that was the
Infinity War.
post-credit scene? What if Cap's
yeah,
like, "Hey, Cap's like,
that
hey
would've been
Thor,
fine, I
where'd
guess.
you go do?" And he's like, "I must tell you about the Infinity Stones." Boom. And then you could go back to Guardians of the Galaxy, watch that, and be like, "Oh, those are the Infinity Stones."
Sure,
Bam.
maybe.
There's the post-credit scene right there.
Yeah, pretty much. The Infinity Stone thing really bugged me. Like, it's just one of those moments that one of my least favorite moments, because it just comes in, Thor's like, "There are these Infinity Stones, and they all have power," and everyone's like, "Oh, all right, cool. Let's go fight Ultron."
You're talking to a god. A, believe him. B, these stones
We are
aren't much more
not
ridiculous.
gods.
than
I know,
you
but
talking to a god.
could we have gotten a little bit more of an explanation? Just
Again,
a
I think this is
little
all
bit.
footnotes. I think we should move
I know,
on.
Now,
but it was
I
just
will also
bugged
say
me.
that his whole thing was to bring, was to initiate the activation and the the activation of Vision, which we'll talk about later.
We will
but-
get to Vision. Oh
Yeah.
my,
Okay.
we will
Who's
get to
next? Who's
Vision.
next? Have we talked about Cap yet?
I would like to wait for Cap.
Okay.
Let's quickly do Hulk, which will lead right into Black Widow.
All right.
Yeah.
Hulk.
Okay. I love the Avengers, the Avengers take on Hulk. I love it. I think it's great.
Yes.
Um.
Mark Ruffalo
yes.
was awesome. I love
I don't
Edward
really
Norton,
have
but
much
I don't
complaints on
think
this front.
I don't think Edward Norton did as well. I saw the Incredible Hulk.
Oh
by the way.
no!
Right.
Mark Ruffalo is the best on-screen Hulk in the history
Yes.
of everything.
Well, he's not
He's very
competing.
good.
He's not competing with much, to be fair. But that's just a side thing. But I mean, Mark Ruffalo. Yeah, I like how he brings the sort of subtle, more passive nature to to Bruce
Yeah.
Banner. And then when he becomes Hulk, he just becomes Hulk. He doesn't make it too what's the word? Complex with Hulk, right? He's a big green monster. He
Especially
smashes
here
things.
when he's under Scarlet Witch's spell. in a way.
Yeah. But
That was an
really
awesome
fun,
action
though.
sequence.
but
Okay, we'll talk about
yeah.
action.
here's what I
Yeah.
didn't like about Hulk, though. Hulk and Black Widow specifically. The whole romance that they have, I hated the ending for him.
Really?
Really, I actually liked it a lot.
No, but here's the thing. He just left. And I'm
Yes.
just,
Yeah.
But I'm just like...
That makes sense.
That's all the
Did you not
character
hear
does.
what he was talking about, with Black Widow on the farm place, whatever? Okay, so that whole part, him leaving, is I think is very important because it not only speaks to his character but also to Black Widow's. Because, well, okay, we'll talk to her later. But I think that was a very satisfying way to end it without turning it into a generic, "Oh yeah, and they lived happily ever after" thing. I think it was that's really sad because
And that
what happened
actually-
in.
Sorry, I want to bring out, these characters don't necessarily have happy endings. In fact, none of the characters have full happy endings of their respective storylines. Stark kind of has to retire because he realized his mistake. Thor
Well,
knows there's
that's
something
okay.
greater on the
We're going to
horizon.
talk about the ending at the ending of this podcast, most specifically. But we got to talk about that later. But the thing is,
And then
with
it's good
Hulk,
for each character to kind of talk about where they end off. And Hulk has the
Plus-
most noteworthy end off point.
yeah. Plus, Hulk is really, really OP. That's kind of his whole thing. Because
Yeah.
the fact is, the parts where where Hulk is not is not being the Hulk is when they have to is when things get pretty challenging. Hulk is fast, strong, and crazy, and never runs out of energy. So
And
for him to
invincible.
not only leave for a character's sake, but also from a team standpoint, they're pretty handicapped. They
Right,
just got knocked
especially-
down a notch.
See, that also just makes sense in context of Phase 3, because we're going to get Doctor Strange, we're going to get especially Captain Marvel.
Oh,
gonna be super
by the way,
powerful.
This is also kind of maybe it might have been studio mandated that he leaves because you never know where he could turn up. Ragnarok, Doctor Strange, you never know.
I have another theory for who comes into Ragnarok, but we will get there.
Well,
Well,
that's
yeah,
what
we'll
it
get there
felt
next week.
like. To me, that's what it felt like. It felt like, all right, let's just push Hulk out of the way so we can put him wherever we want.
See, I felt like
Well,
that.
I
This
would
has
say
been
that
the
it
arc
makes
of
sense
Hulk the whole
from his
time.
character. I would say it was a win-win. It was they get to put him wherever he wants, and also it's a satisfying conclusion to a character who already had a previous arc, and now he's kind of struggling with the fact that he hurt people.
Yeah,
it's a great
that's
way for
why
him
it
to.
made, that's the thing. It makes sense it happened now because we got the Hulkbuster fight. We saw full Hulk. The Banner said it himself. They saw the real Hulk for the first time, and that's why it makes sense. And also, this book ends Whedon's arc with Hulk and Black Widow. It starts with Black Widow going to get Hulk, and it ends with Hulk leaving Black Widow. It bookended from the first Avengers.
I didn't even think about that. That's really good.
Bookend.
And so, should we segue right over to Black Widow?
Yes, so I like Black Widow a lot. Scarlett Johansson is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Now, okay, Scarlett Johansson's always good. But Black Widow got a lot of great development. Here's a character who is struggling with either being a cold-blooded killer or a human, and now she's struggling with the sacrifice of both because she's it's implied that she's romantically involved with somebody who is like the exact opposite. Somebody who's completely emotionally unstable about, and like, as being a human, his emotions are what control him and could ultimately hurt other people. It's just a great, like, I really like this romance. I was actually discussing this with a friend this morning. She was telling me that, like, they kind of turned into a damsel, when in reality, I think they just took a cold-blooded ice queen and made her vulnerable and much more human. And I think, I think her development was great.
I like her vulnerability because she always overcomes it. Like that was one of my favorite scenes in Avengers, where she goes to Loki, he's like, "Give me back my boyfriend." You know, she did that whole act, and then as soon as he gave away his plan, she's like, "Thank you," and leaves. And so I like that she always overcame this. So she was
Muling Quim, yeah,
exactly. She is attached to people. She does have feelings. She's not complete cold-hearted assassin. But the fact is that that's who she was trying to be for so much of her life. And so now she's a hero, where it's like, do heroism for the people.
Yeah, I remember
it's hard to do. It's hard to shift. That's a big. It's a 180. It's a big 180.
In one of the first interviews that Joss Whedon had when it was announced that he was going to be writing for Avengers 2, he said it was going to be much more personable and much more dark. And Black Widow kind of encompasses that. He did say he changed a little bit after seeing Iron Man 3 because it kind of did the same thing. But I think Black Widow kind of sums up the approach he made to Age of Ultron as opposed to the original. You know, and she's made into like a whole, very well-rounded female character, and I'm totally cool with that. I think that was a great move.
We need them. So if we only have one female, that we have two, and we'll get to her. But at least we got one really well-done female character. Now we have two.
You know, just a thing I want to bring up. Did anyone else kind of think that the whole child aspect, the children thing that came up was a little staggering?
Okay, so here's some people have read into this. This is a good thing to address. I'm glad you brought it up. For those that don't know, well, A, you shouldn't be listening, because spoilers, come on. But we're referring to the scene where she, it's confessing her feelings for Banner, and he says, I couldn't have this. Do the math, physically can't have kids, which is a reference back to the Incredible Hulk, where he's getting on with Liv Tyler, but has to stop because he'll Hulk out, because his heart rate goes up. And so what follows is that she says, neither can I. To become an assassin in the graduation ceremony, they sterilized all the students.
Yeah,
and
it's her struggling with being a human being, being a woman. That's a great scene.
I don't think it's even that. I think it's being misread, because she says, you thought you were the only monster on the team, and people have been reading into that just because she can't give birth to kids, she's a monster? That's all women do? I really don't think that's what's going on. No, it's because she gave up
part of herself to go kill people. That's why she says it's a monster, not because...
I don't think it's anything to do with she's a woman outside physically give birth. I think it's that she gave up the potential for life to become better at taking it. That's a monstrous thing to do.
That's
nothing to do with
her personally. It was the fact that she was willing to give up something like that for the sake of kill. And she's trying to fight that past of kill. That's been her arc throughout all the movies. Even Winter Soldier, even Avengers. The ledger, a lot of red in her ledger. This has been her thing. Her past is what defines her. And so this is just a follow-up of that. Where it's one of the things she's most ashamed of, because it was such a, basic thing to do, a basic misaligning of priorities that she now sees as evil. Death was more important than... it's not like she has to give birth or wanted to. It's the fact that she... Even the potential to create life, that wasn't as important as being a good killer. And that's what
now we don't know whether or not she, was forced to do that, or whether she could have been no, I don't want to be an assassin. Or maybe she just, maybe this is, a mandatory thing. From the beginning, she knew that she was going to be... we don't know that, and honestly, that's not too important. But I think the point is, Age of Ultron seems to be trying to fill in character arcs for those who did not get movies. Which goes Black Widow, Hulk, and should we go to the next guy?
Yep.
Everybody's other favorite S.H.I.E.L.D. agent?
Hawkeye.
Yeah, Hawkeye. I think this came from an actor's, request. He's come on. I was given barely anything to do in Avengers.
It's Joss's request. I read that Joss specifically told Kevin Feige to keep Hawkeye out of Phase 2 because he had a great idea for Age of Ultron. And this is what he did.
And then he's going to be in the first Phase 3 movie.
Probably. Though not confirmed.
No, he is. Confirmed.
No, he's not confirmed yet.
He isn't? Oh.
No Hawkeye
anyway,
confirmation.
Dang it. Okay, next episode is gonna be crazy. You guys just wait for that. Anyway, what I saw with see, the thing is, I don't really see. I liked Hawkeye's whole thing. I really liked where they went with him. I just don't see much of the point. Like, what is
me
he? How does he change? I mean, he doesn't have to. Not every character has to change, but there's all this build up and all this like showcase. But what's the point?
Here's the point, and I think this is a role that was missing. I didn't realize it was missing from the Avengers dynamic until this movie, and that's why I really liked Hawkeye in this film. Because, okay, you've got a god who's a little, arrogant still, a little, doesn't look at these worldly problems that much, and he's kind of mightier than thou. He's still got a little bit of that even after the first Thor movie. You've got this super soldier who's like always disoriented at a time, will probably never readjust. And you've got got Tony Stark who's just really messed up with his ego, all this. You've got Black Widow who's haunted by her past and like can never deal with that. You have a giant raging green rage monster. We need someone to just say, everyone, calm down.
And also, hey guys, I'm just a guy. I got paid to do this.
They said it in the film.
Okay, not paid. I don't know who Jeremy. I know who Hawkeye's working for at this point because of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I don't know.
Is he just doing this because he wants to?
He's working for the Avengers now.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, here's the point. They say it in the movie where he's, his wife, which, by the way, I'm trying to think of a Freaks and Geeks reference, but I couldn't think of one. Everyone go watch Freaks and Geeks. That was the main character, Freaks and Geeks.
Oh my god, are you serious?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice. That's crazy.
Yep, that was her.
Wow.
Anyway, she said something like, I see, all these guys with their gods, and he says, you don't think they need me? And she replies with, I think they do, and that's scarier. And that's true. They need someone to ground them. And that's Hawkeye's role. And that's a great role for the character.
Not only that, but then during the battle, during the final battle, like he says to Scarlet Witch, like, "Hey, I have a bow and arrow shooting at robots. None of this makes any sense.
The city is flying, fighting an army of robots, and I have bow and arrow."
Yeah, right. I still don't get why they don't just do a Black Widow or Hawkeye movie though. Like they're well-established, popular characters. I don't really understand why.
Well, we can talk about that next part.
Yeah. Okay, just the point is like he, Black Widow, and Hulk are all given a lot of development, a lot of like a serious arc and a serious like background and whatever. And I just think like it just feels more like it's doing character arcs for all the people who didn't get their own movies in Phase 2.
However, to segue, unless you have something to say about Hawkeye later.
I have something I want to just quickly point out. You guys have given me an interesting perspective on this character, and I do like how he's sort of the normal one, just the guy. Still, though, and it keeps coming back to Ultron, but it's just like I'm just watching this family dynamic thing happen, and I'm like, this literally could take a scene. It could take 5 seconds, and it could be cool. All right, move on. But we spend time at this house. We have that whole talk
because
with
they're
the
hiding.
wife.
Yeah, I think that was a good breather.
I'm kind of glad that and on that note, I'm kind of glad that like they didn't get like invaded, like Ultron found them or anything, because that just feels like a But
I'm just like, I wanted like we could use this time for Ultron stuff, because it's like Age of Ultron, right? He's in the dang title, and like, it keeps coming back. But I feel like characters get time who really don't deserve to when you're dealing with this other character.
But Hawkeye deserves it.
What?
I think
Since when?
Since this movie, it justified
since
it.
this movie.
Yes, this movie kicked down the door and said, hey, you remember all those jokes about how lame Hawkeye was in the first Avengers? Not anymore. Now he's a really interesting character and has a great role on the team. He's not unnecessary. He's incredibly necessary. He makes sure they don't all go crazy.
I wish they would have done a better job of explaining that in the other movies.
You realize
it's a great role.
It's not a coincidence that the guy that's job it is to make sure the Avengers don't go crazy is the one that convinces the one whose job it was to make them all go crazy to join the Avengers.
Oh, right? Wow.
Boom.
Oh my god, I didn't even think of that.
There you go.
Oh, that's nice. I'll say that, Larry, here's the thing you gotta know about the Avengers, is that they're, like, both these movies are character pieces. Like, they're very much about the characters. The reason why they spend so much time there, it's to kind of do what a lot of people love about these movies, is just have the characters interact and talk to each other. Like,
that's what's
fun. I mean, where else do you ever get a bunch of different franchises, a bunch of different characters from different franchises together and just talk and hang out? It's like, it's... Let me think about it. It's like if you got, like, freaking, I don't know, I can't even think of something right now, but, like, think about, like, all your favorite cartoons, like, just, from, like, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, whatever, all in the same place. Personally, I would want them to talk to each other. I would want, not always doing action, just like hanging out, talking to each other, figuring out, how they interact, how they react to other certain huge things. That's the original Avengers and Age of Ultron both have this in spades. I think that's one of the main strengths. I think their time at this farm is not only justified, but also just one of the best parts of the movie.
I don't know. It's like, I get your point. It's like, but look at the first Avengers, right? The first Avengers took a lot of time for them to get used to one another, for them to learn more about each other. And Sean's like, there's too much bickering, but I'm like, they kind of need that because there's so many egos.
And to be fair, it's Joss Whedon. Like, bickering is like his favorite thing.
I know, but I mean, like, that scene with the hammer, that was great. I love that. Like, that was fun.
Oh yeah.
But like,
that was wonderful. And then Cap picks it just a tiny. Oh, that was one of my favorite humor bits. Humorous bits.
But Chris Hemsworth played that reaction just perfectly.
Oh, when Vision ends up picking it up, I just I had.
Oh my god, we're gonna get there. Shut up.
I just had a heart attack.
No, shut up.
But
shut up.
It's just
we're gonna talk about Vision.
It's just like, I wouldn't be so mad about those parts if I still wasn't so peeved about Vision. Not about Vision, about Ultron. So it's really, it's hard for me to get all this across. I think the wife of Hawkeye, she's a good actress. I mean, that's good. And I've been seeing some theories going on about how she might play a bigger role in the MCU later.
I hope not. I actually like the idea that one of the heroes
they're supposed to be grounded, just regular people. Like, they don't need to be
the idea just having regular people.
But isn't the point of superheroes that they're not regular people?
Well, right, but why not have a side character that just kind of stays out of it and has a normal life?
Because that takes away the whole element of them being superheroes.
It grounds them and makes them more relatable. Listen, this is going into comic book superhero philosophy, and we don't have time for that.
I know. I just was answering the question.
Her role to Hawkeye was Hawkeye's role to the group, so she always has to stay not a superhero.
And to be fair, I mean, Hawkeye's abilities are self-taught, but I guess that still is a superhero thing now. I guess you can call it that because a lot of really famous superheroes have self-taught stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to put it back to Ultron again, and I really do want to talk about Vision a lot.
Plus, this explains where. Hold on. Plus, the whole him on a farm thing explains where he was during Winter Soldier. He was just with his family.
Exactly.
He's like, oh
that.
crap, this is going down. I'm just gonna stay here for a while, lay low.
All of Phase 2. Where was he? At his house, where he couldn't really be reached because the whole point is that he was off the record.
Okay, this exact point is going to brings a huge thing into my conclusion, but I'm just going to wait until the end of the review to give my whole thoughts. But that point really works well into what my conclusion is. So
the last returning member, let's just jump right to Captain. I think Captain had the most clear arc in the movie.
Yes.
Which was a very good sequel to Winter Soldier. Because Winter Soldier gave some good character development, but it didn't resolve his dispute.
Oh, not at all.
It offered him a black and white enemy to fight, which helped him deal with being in modern times, but he still didn't get resolution of that conflict. The point of his arc in Avengers Age of Ultron is he realizes that he won't have a place here. He just has to do the avenging thing. He's never going to have a home. He's never going to be able to stop doing this.
Never going to dance with Haley Atwell, and honestly, that sucks for anybody who doesn't get to dance. It's a great tragedy. Great tragedy.
Well, a big thing about this, and something I don't think was perfectly talked about, but I think it's a good idea that it brought up, is Ultron is just talking to the Avengers. It's like, why are you guys even here? The world would be better without you. And so I think that plays a huge role into Cap's arc. So I'm here, right? And what's my place in this world? Oh, I'm supposed to be helping these Avengers. But Ultron's like, yeah, you guys suck, by the way. And I'm like, oh, great. Well, now what am I doing here? Right?
Yeah.
So, and then at the end of the movie, he realizes, now I know why I'm here. I'm here to stop idiots like that from trying to take over the world with a team of people.
Which is entirely why he did that whole language thing, to remind everybody.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, he's from a different time. He's not really, everybody made fun of him for it because he's just the outlier. I find that very relatable, personally.
Honestly, thinking about it, I think Captain America was probably one of my favorite parts of this whole movie because I finally got
he's my favorite hero, probably.
He's a much more relatable character than he was previously.
Oh yeah.
Avengers, he wasn't super interesting, but he was kind of bookended. But I liked him in in his first movie and then in Winter Soldier. But here, Joss Whedon, it digs more into that character.
Plus, Chris Evans is awesome.
Plus, he's actually stepping up and becoming the leader of the Avengers
he
instead
is the leader now, which is great.
And that's in and of itself is a challenge because he's always trying to figure out what's the best move. I mean, working personally speaking, as a guy who is who always tries to be a leader in situations that calls for it, it is always, always, always difficult to figure out which decision is the best in terms of what instead of going either with your gut instinct or thinking what's best for the whole group, which is what the whole part of that scene where Vision's about to happen, that whole scene where he comes in, who's he supposed to trust? His buddy Tony Stark, who he's kind of had a bit of a argument with a lot, but he's still his friend, or the two guys who tried to kill him. I think that's like, I think his great arc is that he's trying to be the leader of the Avengers, and it's becoming more difficult. And that combined with his whole like you're useless thing is like, oh man, I love Cap. He's my favorite. Like he's probably my favorite superhero.
Also,
like, because of these movies.
Props to Chris Evans for being awesome. I think he brings he brings a great personality and a lot of great subtle humor to this character, and I love it. It's great.
So, even if it doesn't give him that much to work with as like an actor.
So let's move on to the newbies. There are three.
Three big ones, anyway.
Right. So let's do Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch.
All right.
Yeah, because they're kind of like not interchangeable, but they're just like
everything they do is pretty much together until the end.
Yeah.
So it's good to look at them as a whole. I like them.
I do too. I mean,
I just wish they weren't freaking. I just wish they were actually Russian actors.
Yeah, those fake Russian accents got to me real quick.
They always
got
me
to
out
me
of it.
real quick.
Really?
Always.
I think they sounded good.
Nah. Well, I mean, okay. For Aaron Taylor Johnson, maybe. But Olsen could barely even keep it up for half the movie. Like, half the time she was breaking into American
I love
accent.
Elizabeth Olsen. Really, I do. It was great seeing her, but her having a Russian
it was unnecessary,
it was Eastern
too.
European, not really Russian.
It was really unnecessary, in my opinion, too. I mean, I get their backstory.
From that region.
Well, yeah, I know, but, like, still.
American wash it, I guess.
Yeah, but they still... Okay, but they don't... Nothing about their... I know because they've been genetically experimented on, but nothing of their appearance really suggests that. It's just the voice.
Their backstory does. They're in that country, got bombed. And
their backstory, which by the way happens in 2 lines.
It's more than 2.
Which is another issue I have with the film.
And it always goes, and it does the same thing that Iron Man 2 did, where it's like, oh, his previous mistakes are coming back to haunt him. Same with the first Iron Man, and Iron Man 3 to an extent. Oh crap.
Well, yeah, that's again the increasingly poor decisions of Tony Stark. That is his character. He messes up all the time. I'm
sick of Tony Stark's previous jerkness becoming the reason why he has so many enemies. Like, can't there be another reason why people don't like Iron Man? There's tons of reasons. In fact, during that scene in, I don't remember what it was, but there was like graffiti of Iron Man, and there was like a dollar sign.
Yeah,
that was great. That was like, I just wish there was a little bit more of that because it helps establish how the Avengers are seen throughout the rest of the world. Isn't it funny how there's like no scenes in this movie that are like in America except for Avengers Tower?
Yeah, thank goodness. I like that we get a more worldwide thing.
We go to Wakanda. That was nice.
Well, no, they didn't. They didn't go to Wakanda. They were just on the African coast. Because Claw escaped Wakanda.
Okay.
So,
well, we got close enough for the movie. Whatever.
We will go to Wakanda in Black Panther.
And maybe Civil War too, which is interesting.
But we will
talk about it.
But anyway, it just bothered me. I wish that we could have gotten, because these are, new characters. Their introduction to the entire universe really was just kind of, they're here, Strucker found them, did some genetic stuff, and boom, they're here. So I wish they could have gotten, like, maybe a flashback sequence where, like, we got to see them as younger children and their parents or something. Like, Ultron just sort of saying their backstory, just talking, just kind of felt a little heartless to me.
Show don't tell.
Show don't tell, but Larry, it's where you open this with saying this is such an overstuffed movie, it has so much to do, and yet this entire podcast you've said, here's something they should add, here's something they should add, here's something they should make longer.
No, I said there are things that they should take out, so that way they can make room for other things. That was a big point.
Right, but you've only had them take out, like, 30 seconds tops.
No. They could have taken...
Okay, guys, moving on. We got it.
It's a bit contradictory as well.
I could give you a whole list of things that they could have taken out from this movie to give a whole lot more time for Ultron. Believe me.
I don't know. Okay, look, I think the heroes are more interesting than a villain. In this case, if you have a really great villain, then the villain might be more interesting.
Well,
but in this case,
we got a whole movie for them. So...
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
So, okay, all right, so should we talk about Quicksilver's death?
Okay, yes, but first I want to talk about those two and their power sets, because I like that we have this new... Both of them are very different from the other powers. And Joss Whedon himself said this. He had a hard time doing the action in the first Avengers, because everyone, as he put it, has punchy powers. Everyone's going around punching people. I mean, Tony Stark, Iron Man's got some missile stuff, but he's doing a lot of punching too.
It's mostly just hand. It's not even punchy. It's just hand stuff. It's just like
so
if you're punching somebody, if you're not punching somebody, then
shield.
you wield a hammer and you hit it, or you're blasting stuff from your hands. It's like always hand stuff. And okay, that's getting. Anyway,
right. So anyway, their power sets were unique, and I'm glad that they're added to the MCU. It mixes it up.
Scarlet Witch. Okay, Quicksilver is just kind of like he's fast.
A good execution of it, by the way, too. The whole effect he has. Good. Yeah, it was cool. Liked it.
Yeah,
especially that one with the hammer. That was great. That was brilliant. Honestly,
I like that Scarlet Witch's powers were very undefined. Like she was psychic, but then could do like
mind stuff.
As Kobe Smulders put it, as Maria Hill put it, she's like, Quicksilver's fast, Scarlet Witch is weird.
Right. And so, like, yeah, she could do, like, mind stuff, but then she could also manipulate matter by, like, stopping the train, and she could create force fields. Like, it's interesting, and I like it. And she's really awesome.
Like, that's a really
and she's
smart
got, like, and she's
thing.
sort of got, it's kind of weird, she's kind of got the powers of all the Avengers. Like, she creates, she has a shield like Captain America, she has, like, not,
projectiles.
like...
Huh, I can see that.
It's controlled by temper, like the Hulk. Like, when she's going all crazy, like, when she screams, whatever, like, she kind of have, like, a certain set of...
all those robots.
Her powers are sort of influenced by, not contextually because of that, but it's just, like, she just has power sets that are activated by the same things that make the Avengers stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
So
like,
it's
everything comes out of her hands, like Iron Man. Her temper, like, becomes, like, a serious source of power, like with Hulk. She creates force fields, like Captain America. She hallucinates and, like, messes with people's mind, like, there's a like...
That's pretty unique.
Yeah,
okay, that's unique. I'll give it to that. But, like,
that's
mostly...
her unique thing.
Yeah, she just kind of fits in as an Avenger.
Yeah, the whole mind messing around thing was a really good idea, especially considering it could bring up these... I mean... I'm not so big on how it, teases new things in the universe because of the whole self-containment thing that we've gone over. But I do like the fact that it's like, here are things that you're afraid of, and I'm just gonna throw them in your face, and it's gonna screw you up.
It's a bit cliched, though, isn't it?
I don't know.
These guys got a lot of weight. I mean,
Personally, I would have wished that we could have seen what Hulk was seeing that made him so angry. Like,
well, that's the thing. Like, it was just Hulk.
I mean, you didn't need... Okay, to be fair, you didn't need to show me it. I just would have liked to see what he was seeing that made him so angry.
Yeah, I guess that's fine, yeah.
Not to show him being, like, controlled, because we've seen that, but, like, why is he so angry and hurting Tony? Why is he hurting his friend Tony? Even as the Hulk, he sees Tony as not bad guy. So why is he hurting Tony Stark as bad guy?
Yeah. So let's move on. But first, we should probably talk about Quicksilver's death because this is the first hero that died. Oh yeah,
and he's not coming back. Let's be real, he is not coming back. There's no reason for him to come back.
Yeah, why would?
And they need to get rid of him so that they can stop that whole Fox so the Marvel Studios can stop the whole thing Fox.
That might have been part of it. That honestly could have been part of it. They're like, look, we'll kill him after one movie, and you get him for Apocalypse and whatever else you want after Days of Future Past. So
like, okay.
Sorry, I'm sick. I think it was very well done. I like that they were like leading us to think Hawkeye was going to die. I bought it for a few seconds because
I thought so too. I thought that would happen. Honestly, I was like, "This is going to happen," and then it didn't. And then instead he went.
Yeah.
I kind of expected this to happen, though. I was still a little bit thinking that like somebody like War Machine would go, just because he's like, because we need a reason for Tony not only to leave but to also become sort of the enemy in Civil War. But then again, that's this is getting like. It becomes harder and harder to talk about character motivations and whatnot when you know what the next movies are going to be about.
Yeah, that ties it to why I hate that they're like, hey, Iron Man, Captain are going to be in Civil War. It's like, well, should I be worried about their safety in the previous film?
Yeah,
Probably
I wish
not.
When they did that thing in October, they would have just been like, okay, we're going to have a Captain America movie on May 6th. It'll be Captain America 3, and then just like maybe a few weeks after Age of Ultron comes out, then they reveal what the titles are. Or that would have been a lot more interesting.
In an interview where he's like, "Yeah, filming Civil War now, and then in like 6 months after that, I'm going in to shoot Infinity War Part 1 and 2." Like, come on.
Hey, flashbacks. Remember, always could be flashbacks.
I doubt it.
But anyway, the point is, it just becomes kind of hard to talk about like character deaths and whatnot in a series that is so like abundantly huge that you kind of can tell who's going to die and who's going to live.
But thank goodness they finally killed a hero.
Yes, and they're gonna. There's no way he should come back. There's no reason for it. He really wasn't that interesting anyway. To be fair,
he was fine.
Well, I mean, he wasn't
uninteresting. He was just like.
I mean, he didn't get that much to chew on because there was so much else that was happening. But I think the death. I don't know. The character came because when you're thinking about how he came into the universe, it was Strucker, and his fate had always been doomed from the start. When you're dealing with someone from Hydra and stuff like that, so they were getting into something really risky. So you could tell like, okay, they're young. It's possible one of them can screw up and kick the bucket. So if it had to be anyone, it wasn't
going to be Scarlet Witch.
If it had to be, any, well, of course that's because Vision is in the movie. But if they had to kick anyone, it was going to be Quicksilver.
Yeah, Max, remember we were talking, I'm like, oh my god, it's so obvious, he's so dead. That was Quicksilver.
Oh, yeah,
totally, I had a feeling, I was like, okay,
come on, man.
It's gotta be Quick. Didn't I say it was gonna be Quicksilver? And you're just like, I'm not gonna say anything. Didn't I say that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was one of your guesses. Yeah, you had like 2 or something.
Yeah, again, I don't think he's given much to work with, but the twins are interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with Scarlet Witch. But next character, please.
Vision.
All right.
Vision.
Vision.
I think he's the breakout character of this movie. The Hulk was for
Absolutely.
the Avengers, and Vision is for this one. And I want him to come back in many movies.
I think
Duh,
becomes
all better.
Vision should
Literally
come
all
back-
of them. Just have them all of them.
Vision could come back in Thor Ragnarok. That's where I think he should play in.
Not even Civil War, like as like a cameo or something, where it's like he could be like
Maybe.
at the beginning of the movie talking to Cap, and he's
Look,
like,
look,
I
this
don't
is
know
next
about this
podcast.
Cap or something.
This is next podcast.
Oh,
Let's-
Okay,
Paul
dang it, I'm
Bettany,
sorry.
man.
We keep
Paul.
going into next podcast is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna tell you that right now. This is phase 1 of the podcast about Age of Ultron. Next time is phase 2, and phase 2 is normally considered to be better than phase 1. You know, just saying. Anyway, yes,
So
Vision was
Vision's
awesome.
Yeah,
let's,
Paul
let's
Bettany.
just break this down. He looks awesome. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't like this
Excellent
thing,
design.
When it came out, like they're doing the Vision, everyone's like, okay, they're going to do the Silver Vision because that's like the more newer Vision. Less, it's a little toned down. It's not
Yeah.
the color from that.
Screw
But they're like,
that.
no, he is doing the original colors, but they are toned down still. They're darker. They're less vibrant, which is good. Great design, amazing CGI on the face. A lot of it was practical, a lot of it was CGI. I don't really know the split, but apparently it was a mix. But the face looks very human. It looks really
And
good.
that
Yeah.
cape is awesome. That
Yes.
cape is so cool. Like
I love that he
saw
just
him, I'm
faced
like,
off
oh
Thor.
my god. I still wish I wouldn't have seen that poster or anything like that.
Yeah,
that, you know.
sorry.
And
No, that's on everybody, all the news media outlets, or
Oh, I
and
thought it
Marvel
was me
too.
that
I would-
retweeted.
and
No, it was Marvel Studios who put out a poster of that. I was like, come on, guys.
Well,
why are you
don't
doing
follow
that?
Marvel Studios if you don't want to spoil it. I mean, come on.
yeah, and Paul Bettany.
Yep.
This
Yeah.
guy is so talented.
And
I will
he's
miss
been here
Jarvis,
since
but I
the
don't mind him
beginning.
as Vision.
He's been here since the beginning. This has just been the AI voice from Iron Man 1. Now he's suddenly
yeah.
arguably the most powerful Avenger.
Well, he's
Yeah,
definitely he has
he's
an Infinity
actually, like-
Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has
Not only-
mind beam powers.
He's powered by an Infinity Stone, and his body is made of vibranium.
Now, I
he
can
is-
only assume that he's gonna die. You know, he's gonna have
Well,
to go.
we'll talk about that, because like, Thanos is probably going to get all the stones, which means Vision's head's going to get all split open. We'll talk about that next podcast, for sure. The
Yeah, but, like,
ramifications of all this.
Him right now, he's awesome. He's like I think he is going to be everybody's like big, or maybe not everybody, but the majority's of like their favorite new character from this movie because he's really interesting, especially how he speaks to Ultron, how he's much more peaceful. I think
He's-
if he was angry, he could destroy everything. I think he
He
has
is
that power
so
because he's
zen.
invincible.
He is so
Yeah, he's-
zen. That's his
And
character.
he's invincible.
I
Literally,
wish
his
we got
entire body is
more-
made of stuff that can recreate itself. It's like
I wish we got more of Ultron and Vision. I so wish we had that conversation
okay,
they had at the
here's-
end was great.
It
all right,
was.
here's I will agree with that because at the end of the movie with the credit sequence they have like all the credits and stuff and we see this like statue that has Ultron and Vision looking at each other in the middle and it's like the conflict really wasn't built up to be like this huge epic like face off between Vision and Ultron. Like it just even though they have that last confrontation at the end of the movie, which is an amazing scene by the way, it just kind of like it's not again that goes back to my original problem with the movie is that its structure just doesn't build up that kind of thing enough.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
like because they're two from the same kin. Essentially,
Yeah,
one
they're
was
basically like
made,
brothers.
one became bad, one became good. Now let's let them
And
talk
Tony
to one
Stark's in the
another.
middle.
Yeah, exactly. I think that I just wish we got it more dialogue. I don't care whether it was like comedy or actually like actual stuff like legit philosophy, but like it was just it was as if the movie came full circle. It was like finally we see these two characters actually, talking to each other in peace, like without punching and stuff. It was great. One of the best parts of the movie by far.
Let's talk about the best part of the movie, the best moment. It involves Vision. When he picks up Mjolnir.
Oh my god!
Like, it is such a nerdy thing to name the best
Wait,
moment of the film.
I got crazy because it's like, oh my god, he's worthy. Is that why everybody was freaking out? I honestly don't know. I thought it was just funny.
What?
No, I thought it
Yes.
was crazy because nobody else
Was
is
it-
supposed
oh,
to
snap.
pick up Thor's hammer.
I thought
Two
wait,
people.
no, but I thought Captain America did, and then he decided not to
No,
crush
it
Thor's
just
spirit.
shifted barely.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
He was
didn't pick it
thinking
up.
about it. If Mjolnir is sentient, it was like, maybe. This guy's pretty cool. Cap's pretty cool, but decided
Okay.
against it. There are two people that have been able to wield it, Thor and Odin, and now Vision.
And that's a great method of characterization to show that Vision is
Yeah.
so freaking worthy. He's like,
It's just-
I'm just it's whatever.
Oh,
man. Here's your
snap.
shit."
He
Oh,
just
by the way,
picks up the hammer.
here's your hammer back. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay,
And
whatever.
everybody just stares at it like, oh my god.
And you should.
Like-
What I love. This is a good time to bring this up. I went first showing opening night. It was an amazing crowd. It was full of MCU nerds like me. And when Vision lifted the hammer, the audience just went, "Oh!" And like everyone was just, "Oh, it was amazing."
It was actually the exact opposite.
I'm
my
kinda
audience, it was just silent. We were all just like, you could tell like there was a whole feeling of just like, what?
When I thought it was just really funny. Like Thor was just like, All right.
All right then. All right, you're worthy.
Okay, no,
Well, yeah,
I'm
I mean,
totally not mad. I'm totally
on.
not jealous or anything like that. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, Vision was awesome. I don't think we really have much to say outside of he was just a great character. I want to see him in future movies.
Yeah,
awesome.
he's a great role.
What's the last?
Just like
What's the
Hawkeye,
last
he
new
has a
character?
great role in the sense that he's just the wise mentor. He's not the leader. That's still Captain. He doesn't fit the role of leader, but he's who like Captain goes to for advice. You know, he's
his opinion. Yeah, his opinion on like on humans and whatnot. Like again, that last confrontation with Ultron is actually like probably my favorite scene. Honestly, it just how it's like how he talks. Like it's iconic. It has a lot of great quotable things, and it just shows the difference between them. Again, I don't think it's built up to that all that much, but just that scene alone is just wonderful, and just how how it goes back to Ultron being like kind of the crooked, destroyed guy that he was at the beginning of the movie. Bookended, yay! All right,
Yay,
who's the last new character?
That's all of them.
There's the three. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I want to move on to action really quick. For sure.
Just really quick.
I think it's fine that so much of the podcast is on the characters because, again, it's called The Avengers. It is a character movie. Like it's based on these characters. I'm glad we got to talk about them. Had a lot of fun. But yeah, let's talk about action because I thought it was really good.
Yes. I think the three big action sequences, the one in the snow... I guess it was four, sort of. Like I think the three big ones were the Hydra assault, the Hulk, Hulk v Iron Man, and the last, like, the battle on the island, the floating island or whatever. Like, I know there were things other than that, but those are the three moments, those are the three action sequences that are just incredible. Like, I was just like, I was in awe the entire time. There are other action sequences, obviously, but those big ones are just incredible. Though, this does bring me to another issue I saw with the movie. I don't know about you guys, but that climax was really familiar. Like, really?
What do you mean?
Really familiar. A giant, like, a battle in a city with a bunch of, like, guys controlled by this one other guy who's just, he's like, go after all of them, and they're all, like, powered by... It just all feels like the original. It feels very...
See, what always bothered me about that type of climax, I can't remember... I had a name for it that I came up with, but I talked about it... I think I've talked about it with you, Max, where it's the trope of, like, it's the singularity climax or something, where it's like go to the one thing to end all the giant other things.
Yeah.
And that's that's the Death Star.
You hit the
exhaust port, it blows up. And that was for the first Avengers, right? That was you just got to get to the gate and do that, or even something like Winter Soldier kind of had it, where it's like just get the 3 chips, or Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's like you just got to get the orb from. What's his face?
It's like a video game.
Right. So, what I liked about Age of Ultron's climax is that it reversed. It role reversed. The villain had to get to the single point. The heroes had to deal with everything. It was explicitly stated none of the robots could survive.
It's kind of like how the MCU works, considering how the movie's kind of about the MCU.
Oh, we will get there. Oh, Maxwell, we will get there, because I'm very happy it wasn't me being crazy that figured that out. There's some meta stuff. I'll give that to you. We will talk about that later.
Sweden is the meta master, as far as I'm concerned,
right now. He's a meta man. A metahuman, in a way. Nope, that's copyright.
Let's see. So I can understand DC. That, yeah. And, oh my gosh, you have no idea how freaking psyched I was when War Machine came in and just, like, started doing stuff. I was like, War Machine!
That was awesome.
Like, I'm not even a huge War Machine fan. It was just wonderful, like, sight.
Where was Falcon?
Where was Falcon?
Yeah, well,
I don't know, and
he was too busy
upset.
working on the missing persons case.
Yeah, it should have been both of them.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah.
He was looking for Winter Soldier? Is that what he was doing?
Yeah, at the beginning, he's like missing person. But seriously, it would have been so cool. Iron Patriot and Falcon were just flying around fighting. That would have been cool.
Yeah, and it was weird how it wasn't Iron Patriot anymore. It was War Machine again.
Yep, he went back to War Machine. So
this is interesting. Yeah, see, like, I mean, I'm not going to do the whole like, where were the Avengers when this was happening? But come on, I mean, listen, when you have something as big as that, you got to, like, why didn't Cap call his buddy Sam Wilson up? Like, come on, like Falcon is like my favorite hero outside of Cap. So I don't know. But other than that,
you really like Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do. Absolutely.
We know. It's your tied for second favorite movie of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like. Part of me really wanted to be like when Nick Fury showed up. I was like, Deus Ex Machina. But then I'm just like, yeah. But then I'm like, but then I thought about it. I'm like, I don't care. I like that he came back.
No, honestly, it makes sense in the context of Winter Soldier. Captain America explicitly states it's what S.H.I.E.L.D. is supposed to be. That's why it fit for me.
It's like S.H.I.E.L.D. coming in and saying, okay, guys, we're going to get all, like, the little textures about this out of the way so you can just have your big action scene. We'll get all the people out of here so the implications of destruction porn do not reflect the movie.
Yes, thank goodness. And that's what I love. Like, people are like, I bet there's going to be a ton of destruction poured in Age of Ultron, but everyone's not going to talk about that like they are Man of Steel. It's like, okay, here's the difference. Man of Steel, there is a shot where they are in space. Superman grabs Zod and throws him back to the city to continue fighting. That's incredibly irresponsible. The entire point of the climax of Age of Ultron is get everyone off. That is the entire point.
Pretty much.
So that's the difference. I'm glad that they kind of avoided it. And even during the Hulkbuster fight, Tony scans the building to make sure no one's there, and then he destroys it with Hulk. So
I think what I enjoy so much about the action is that it is exactly what made the Battle of New York such an iconic and such an amazing action sequence. And it's tons of teamwork, it's tons of like helping out, and that last part where like they're all fighting in that church together. It's something special. I wish they had like a similar. I guess they sort of did with that slow motion shot at the beginning, but a similar shot with the whole rotating, like, all of them together. But, like, it's just sort of all of them looking at Ultron, just, in the same place. It's wonderful. It's just, the action is top-notch, as always, with Marvel Studios. Yep. Say what you will about how they integrate cinematic universes into their plots. They know action better than any other blockbuster studio out there.
Yeah, that's why I don't really have much to say about the action. It was really, really good, as every other Marvel movie before it.
And there's something so aesthetically pleasing about tearing apart robots. Like that shot when Quicksilver just wrecks through a line of them and it's slow, but like it's just cool to watch. There's something pleasing about robots just being ripped to shreds. It's cool, and it's something that like even Days of Future Past didn't take full advantage of. But here they get hundreds of little robots, so they get to tear them apart left and right. It was very satisfying.
Yep.
Does anyone have anything like more plot wise? That's why also character was fine to spend so much time because we kind of covered like plot in that section, which is very that's telling about the film. Honestly, that's the kind of movie you're going into. Very, very character driven. Very much so.
I think I just want to reestablish the fact like I was pretty harsh on Age of Ultron at the beginning of this review because without an establishing act, it kind of it has a very weak structure that could crumble any minute. But all the character pieces, like all the conversations are really powerful, really interesting, really like well written. Like they're all very good. I think this is why I'm most certainly going to look at, going to watch and buy the extended edition just to see if it like changes in quality. Now it's not an excuse. I'm just like saying that out loud. Just that's not an excuse. I'm not going to be like I'm going to re-award the movie a 9 out of 10. I'm just going to say, but like the character, like the beats with the characters, how they interact, how they do, like that is exactly what makes the Avengers such an interesting, unique, and just excellent franchise. And so, character pieces are awesome.
Yeah, that's why I'm very curious to see that extended version. I want to see what got cut.
It's going to be mostly the beginning. I can almost guarantee you this.
Loki was supposed to be there, got cut. Unfortunately.
Yeah, there's also that whole.
Are you serious?
What happened with Odin? Odin's Loki? What happened? Never talked about.
Well, Thor Ragnarok is obviously.
I know, right? But I was just I thought they were talking about it.
Apparently, Loki was supposed to be in Thor's vision. So.
That would make sense.
Yeah. But it was cut. So back to you were talking about like that's what makes the Marvel Cinematic Universe so great. That's this. Let's get to a point. I want you to kind of talk about it because I can't quite put my finger on it, but I do think Age of Ultron is about the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yep,
I picked up some things. So why don't you kind of give your theory? I'll chip in, I'll agree with you, and then we'll see what Larry thinks. So go ahead, because I've made fun of you for like everything's meta with you, but I do think in this case
that's why I'm so looking forward to this, because you just hate him.
It's not hypocritical. I think it's very rare that movies are meta, and this is one of them. So, Max, go ahead.
So, for those of you who are new, I have a theory, and Sean agrees with me on this. The Avengers, the original Avengers, is a movie entirely about itself. Yes. Some critics have said that it's kind of like a celebration of its own existence. I would say it's just a movie. The Avengers, the movie, is about the Avengers, the movie. Avengers: Age of Ultron is about the Marvel Cinematic Universe from the not from it is about the Marvel Cinematic Universe contextually, but out of context, it is about how it's created and how it could all go completely wrong.
Yep.
For example, that whole piece with you got to destroy everyone, that's the Marvel movies. They could just keep going and multiplying until they until they have the entire film industry at their fingertips. That's what Marvel Studios could do. Ultron is everything that could go wrong. All the greed, all of what could become the Marvel Cinematic Universe in just a few short years. Some would even argue that's what it's becoming. But
I'm going to split. Honestly, I think there's a split because I think Ultron addresses humans like the MCU is us, the humans, or the Avengers. I mean, it's pretty obvious. He explicitly says, "And you, the Avengers, will be my comet." Like, he's going to turn them into his way to destroy the world. And I think his talk with Vision is the most important in regards to its meta-ness. Because with Joss Whedon leaving, with him having some more controversial opinions about some moves Marvel Studios has made, the fact that Ultron says they are doomed, and Vision says yes.
Oh
but
my
something
God.
isn't beautiful because it lasts
Are you
forever.
telling me that Joss Whedon knows that this thing could go wrong? And
I think he knows that it is.
Oh my God.
I think that's the point. I think he's saying what all the critics are saying is right. It is going to become so overblown. They're going to run out of ideas. It's going to be just rehashed. It's going to be awful. The actors are going to leave. We're going to get new ones that people like less. But that's not right now. Yes, it is doomed. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is doomed.
What does Vision say that's so wonderful? It's like
a
something
thing
that's
isn't beautiful because it lasts forever, I think is what he says. Because it will always last. I think it is Joss Whedon. That's his farewell to the MCU.
That's his thesis. It's like, this is happening. This is, it's wonderful that this happened, but now we're kind of, it's not going to be great forever, guys.
Right. I think that is it. I think that's his farewell, where it's like, yes, it's doomed. It is. Mm-hmm. But
if anything did not get cut from that, from the theatrical version of Avengers: Age of Ultron, it is that point. The Avengers: Age of Ultron is about how the MCU is kind of doomed, like humanity in the movie, but it's okay because nothing lasts forever, and that's how life is.
So the idea that he is going to destroy Earth and all the heroes, like just in one fell swoop, is like, if one movie could just bring it all crashing down, it's because like, look, like, this could go so wrong, all this noise, so much has already gone wrong, like, I mean, come on, let me just end it. Like, come on, we gotta evolve, we gotta just move on. It's doomed, like, it's gonna collapse on itself anyway, let's just move on, clean cut. But Vision kind of steps in on behalf of probably just Joss Whedon saying, yes, eventually, but not now.
I've actually seen that it's that Ultron is Kevin Feige, but I would argue that Ultron is Joss Whedon, while Vision is Kevin Feige. Like, that's, their last conversation.
I would say Ultron is more just kind of the skeptical side. I don't think it's an accident that he has his entire knowledge from the internet. Like, someone made that joke online. Shoot! And I actually think there is something to that, weirdly. Like, again, this doesn't sound like super deep, but I think there's something there, And
it's kind of interesting how Vision's, one of the Vision's last lines is, nothing, something isn't beautiful because it lasts forever, and the next movie is going to be called Infinity War. I'm just saying.
Right. And
like,
so,
Larry, Larry, do you have anything to say on this? Just because we kind of left you out of this?
Well, I mean, I didn't really have a theory about how meta this movie was.
Well, do you buy it? Like, do you think there is an underlying argument?
I buy it. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I think we'll get far more into this next episode, but I think that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a huge problem on its hands.
Going forward.
I mean, more specifically about just how, not only how big itself it's going to become, but also the fact that they're going to be dealing with a villain that is essentially unstoppable.
Right.
Like, the Infinity Gauntlet literally controls every facet of everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, how are you going to make a movie about it? Like, I don't think even 2 parts would do it justice, honestly.
What's interesting is that you can kind of tell that Joss Whedon, like, just going off of that, there's a line, and I don't think this is, like, going too much into next week's thing. I think this is good here. There's a part in the beginning where Tony's like, that up there, pointing upward to space, that's our end game. I think that's Joss Whedon being like, okay, guys, after Infinity War, we should probably just stop this before it gets out of control.
Yeah, but of course, now in humans, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just like, I'm going to make a different point towards my conclusion, but yeah, I totally buy your idea. I think that this movie, thinking about it now, it does have a lot to say about a lot of things, but I just wish we could have gotten more. I mean, I like the character interactions, but I think there was a lot of thematic depth that this movie could have really unearthed if they had given more time for
I've been so
things.
Positive, but it is an 8.5. I marked down some points. And my biggest problem is that, again, like I said when I started this, I can't quite put my finger on it. That's the main reason I went a second time, is because I watched it and said, man, I enjoyed that movie, like, so much, loved it. But I can't quite get it. I couldn't explain it. Like, what is it? I should go again.
I was struggling to think about what it was about, and I'm like, okay, just go back. What was the original trailer about? What was the original trailer about itself? How... It was the whole thing. And then that's when, like, all the pieces started falling into place.
And so I would say that by going a second time, the fact that I still don't really know, maybe there is some thematic stuff a little underdeveloped. That's kind of my big point deduction for Age of Ultron. And that stretches into stuff like the romance between Hulk and Black Widow needed a bit more, or the origin of Ultron needed a bit more. it falls into that, but it's more thematic. Like, I get it, it's trying to do some things. There are things there, but it could have been more fleshed out. That's kind of my biggest.
So can we go to conclusions? Because I think we've hit a lot of them.
We're done.
I think we've pretty much hit all the points.
Yeah. Any last comments? I was not really enthused by that much by the music.
Really?
Well, it was pretty much Brian Tyler trying to be Alan Silvestri. So
and it didn't really go that well.
Also, I don't know.
It was a little bit.
I'm sorry.
It was a little bit muggy too. Like the film just looked a little bit muggy.
What do you mean muggy?
Was that? Like, just like, it was very gray.
Oh, well, yeah. See,
like, not like just
I don't know, but I have a really crappy screen. The projectors at my theater are really bad. Like, you know the shot at the very beginning with the twins? Like, the very first shot of the movie? You can barely see them.
Yeah.
It is terrible at contrast. So, I'm excited to go home and see it on the beautiful XD screen at my cinema. Oh, wow, we all plugged our movie theaters this episode. Yay.
Nice. Back on the score, I guess. Where was Danny Elfman?
Yeah, I was
because they gave him credit.
They did,
and people were thinking, "Oh man, Spider-Man's theme. They're gonna make it clear."
But you know that I was the person who thought, who said that.
No. What happened was we watched the Avengers. We watched the first Avengers before going to the second one. A few friends of mine, and then they were like, "Oh, so what do you think the mid-credit scene is going to be?" And some guy's like, "It's probably going to be Spider-Man because Danny Elfman's name is attached." And I'm like, "What?
No.
He is?" And I don't know where he was. Where did he fit into this movie? I still don't know.
I don't know. Well, I mean, we could just, I'll look up the.
It's just a question. I don't know. I just didn't really recognize any.
Maybe it was supposed to be in there, and then they kind of cut it out at the very. Maybe that was supposed to be the post-credit scene. Yeah, it's interesting how. Okay, here's another thing I just noticed. That's really quick. For a Marvel movie, like that founded the whole idea of staying through the credits for like a super secret ending. After 7 years. There wasn't a post-credit scene this time. It was just mid-credits.
Yeah, also the mid-credit was pretty weak.
Well, I mean, it was something we already knew. It was
exactly what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
it was like, okay, then I was, all right.
Well, I like the line.
All right, see you in 3 years.
Well, I like the line where it's like, all right, you know what? Nobody else can do it, so I'm just going to have to do it myself. So he's just gonna put on the gauntlet, and hell's going to break loose. Yeah. I like that.
I thought that meant, I mean, okay, we'll talk about this next week, but like, there are a lot of weird implications I want to talk to you guys about next week. Anyway, yeah, but final conclusions. Larry, you were saying?
Yeah, Larry, go wrap up. I'm host. I will tell him to wrap up. Thank you, Max. Larry, wrap up.
All right,
we're almost an hour and a half.
Here's the thing that bugs me about Age of Ultron. And I said right in the beginning of this episode, something is wrong with Age of Ultron. I'm so upset that doesn't rhyme, but whatever. Here's my issue with it. The movie feels more like a piece of a universe than a self-contained story, or at least a self-contained story that could have really become something of itself. When I think about Age of Ultron, I was walking in thinking, all right, we're going to get Ultron's origin. We're going to get stuff about him. We're going to get Vision, how he plays into that. We're going to get a Tony Stark thing, a whole triangle. But instead we get, we're also going to throw in Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. And then we're also going to throw in Hulk and Black Widow. And we're also going to throw in Hawkeye. And I'm just like, it just feels like it's too big. And a lot of critics have been saying this, and I know that critics and superhero movies don't really have the best relationship right now. But I feel that a lot of critics have a point when they say it's too big for its own britches. Bigger is not always better. And here I think it's especially right, because we keep talking about all this stuff, right? We brought up that point. It's hard to really get into a movie when you know so many details about what's going to come after. And so when you're watching Age of Ultron, it's hard to escape all of those thoughts, and you start bringing in other movies into the equation, and it's hugely conflicting with just my personal philosophy of that a movie needs to stand up on its own.
Well, and that's Marvel's original philosophy too.
Right?
Like, they've been parading that for years.
And I'm in extreme conflict. And part of me, and this is my main ending thought, part of me wants to side with the idea that if they had just focused on Tony Stark creating Ultron and then Vision and the whole character relationship that fits into that, and how the rest of the characters fit into that, because they did it well with Loki. Black Widow played into Loki. Hulk also played into Loki. I wish we could have gotten that. I'm not saying the character interactions were bad that we got. I'm just saying if they maybe tried to unearth something more thematically interesting, we could have gotten a better film as a whole. So that's pretty much my end thought. Again, it's not bad. 6.5.
Yeah, 6.5, which
6.5. It's a. I mean, you know what? And even like 6.5 is more of a critical thought. If I really had to give a personal idea, it's more like a 7, maybe a 7.5, just based off an enjoyment standpoint. You know, because there are some parts that even as a normal film goer, not as a Marvel nerd, they just bug me. Like, you know, this stuff gets thrown in and it gets 3 lines, and it could have been way more interesting if it was told visually as opposed. So, but I'm done. That's my conclusion. Bada bing.
Okay, well, I gotta disagree. I think not only did I decide to embrace the idea that this is just part of a larger universe and it just didn't know it yet, but I think the film, it embraces this too. This is a film for itself. This is a film for the fans, and I think shrugging off the weight of trying to be for everyone, it helped, because it's unnecessary. The Avengers were one of the highest grossing films of all time, as was a lot of Phase 2. It's good that it moved on. It's good that it gets to be this big, that it gets to have so many players in its story, and that's what makes it more interesting. And all the pieces are great. You know, we've talked about the characters, and I've defended, why each one has either an arc or a role, or, something hinting at the forward of the MCU. Everything fits in place. Everything works, despite my, worrying that I still can't quite get the thematic level as much as I want. So that is my one concern. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed this movie a lot. The second I walked out of this movie, I wanted to see it again, and then I went back the second time, and when I walked out, I
kind of want to as well.
It's just so enjoyable, and it's funny.
It really is.
It's really well directed and really well written. Joss Whedon killed it there. Even if there's some fundamental thematic confusion on my part, I can overlook it because it's probably my favorite movie so far in terms of enjoyment of this year. Anyway, Max, go ahead and wrap us up.
So as I said at the beginning, I have a weird feeling that Marvel has this in-house rule of no movies over 2.5 hours. I think they just have that rule. I don't know why exactly, they just have that rule. And I feel like that, I feel like a lot of the first act of Age of Ultron is cut a lot. However, the true triumph of Age of Ultron is that even with a lot of its establishment act cut off, just gone, it manages to be a thoroughly, incredibly entertaining ride that still manages to be about something, that still manages to be exciting and visceral and fun and well-written and well-directed, even when it's like somebody chopping off somebody else's legs and that person's still winning the marathon. It's a true triumph and an achievement, and that's why I think so highly of it, even if all the parts, even if it's fundamentally problematic. And that's why I would still give it an 8.9 out of 10, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the extended version have. If the extended version is 3.5 hours, that first off explains a lot, and secondly, I would be thrilled. I want a 3.5 hour version of this movie so bad, you have no idea. So yeah, an 8.0 out of 10. Hell yes.
So there we go. We're all in agreement, no matter what our score is, that emotionally speaking, we all enjoyed this a lot more than we would critically evaluate it as. And
oh, totally.
Yeah, that's this kind of movie. Again, that's why I opened with that question.
Go check it out. Give it a watch.
That's why I opened with that question. Does it matter if it's good or not? You're probably going to enjoy it if you like this type of thing. We like this type of thing. We enjoyed it. Though, of course, we're all defending the good, more analytical moves the film does. Of course, we have our points there. But at the end of the day, the important thing is that we all really enjoyed it, despite the problems. So I bet you can go in, you can acknowledge the problems, but still have... wow, the cold is just kicking in. It's weird. I've been fending off my cold for the entire episode, and now right at the end, I'm dying. Let me repeat myself just to not be interrupted.
To hold me down.
Yeah. Let me just repeat myself just so I'm not interrupted. At the end of the day, all that matters is that we really enjoyed it, and you probably will too. That is Age of Ultron. Incredibly enjoyable, and there's some good stuff going, though, of course, always open to criticism. But well done. I'm definitely satisfied with this film.
Me too. And next week, we're gonna put on a nerd hat and
we're
really
gonna go
start digging
full
into this
MCU,
thing.
What it means, theories for the films. Now that we have Age of Ultron context, we'll talk about Daredevil.
The Avengers Aftermath of Ultron.
Yes, we'll talk about Daredevil as well, since we've now all seen season 1 of that okay show.
Yeah.
Until then, my name is Sean.
Oh, is it me? My name is Larry.
And my name is Max.
I don't really like ending on all of us individually signing off. Come on, in the spirit of the Avengers, let's just as a group, okay? So, rule of thirds.